Welcome to Career Happy Hour, not without its bumps and bruises. I'm Andrew Beach. I'm an executive career coach. I help professionals communicate their value to find great opportunities faster. How do I do that? Well, I consider myself a teacher of self-education. I look at you and help you understand you better so you can communicate that to the outside world effectively. So let's see if I can turn off the audio here on LinkedIn so I don't get spillover on the other side. Hey, let me know where you're joining from, and also share. Every single platform that you might be on has a share button down below. I would really appreciate you taking a look at that, engaging in sharing this with your networks and letting them know, number one, I'm here every Friday, 3 p.m., even when I'm on vacation. I was here last week. That was problematic. You probably saw that. 3 p.m. Pacific time every Friday. Number two, it's free coaching. I bring anybody on live that wants to come on live, and I will actually put that link into the chat. If you are interested in coming on live, it's more than, you'll come right to the front of the line. You'll get all the support that you need. So let me put that in the chat over here on the other channels. So we're broadcasting today on YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Welcome, everybody. It's Career Happy Hour, or as my friend Terry Smith calls, Cocktail Hour. So hopefully you have your fresh drinks. I'm going to have water today. So what's on your mind? What's on my mind? Well, actually, since I was on vacation, one of the things I really wanted to talk about with y'all is remote work. And many of us are in a position today where we can make remote work a reality and have location independence in delivering value to our organizations. And whether you're working today or not, it's certainly something that is offering flexibility. So right now, I'm coaching people that typically may reside, let's say, generally speaking, in Portland, that are now delivering the same services from Montana or Idaho or Los Angeles. So think about this for a second. If you are, thank you, appreciate that, Terry. Glad you're having a cocktail for the rest of us. Hopefully you got some good news. Maybe, maybe not. This is a community too, by the way. It's just not me broadcasting here. It's just not you absorbing here. It's you all, meaning everybody that's watching, listening, and or viewing the replay, whether that's on YouTube or what have you. This is an opportunity for you to collaborate with other people in the chat. In fact, I would encourage each one of you to look at everybody that's on today's session, put your LinkedIn profiles in the chat, and let's all connect together and follow up with a conversation, either by Zoom, telephone, or something, so we can support each other. That's what this is all about. Now, if you do have questions, certainly leave those in the chat as well. If you would like to come on live, the link is in the chat there for you to link into. You'll come into the queue. I'll invite you in, and we can have a conversation together. So again, let me know where you're joining from. I know Terry is here in Portland with me. So I would just be interested to know where everybody is. Where you look, I'm in Beaverton. I think Terry's somewhere in Portland. We have folks that joined from Seattle. Just let me know where you are in this great land called the internet. That would be really helpful. So really the thing that that has been on my mind since I was camping on vacation last week is location independence. And, it's funny how when you start talking about something, people offer advice and information. One of the keys to networking is actually seeking advice and information around topics of interest or passion projects, or, what, my friend Scott Picard Jones calls a vanity project. It could be a vanity project like this would be, hey, I really want to turn my career into a location independent enterprise. What does that look like? And how would I make that happen? And when you start asking those questions from a position of curiosity, the interesting thing is everybody's got an opinion and they want to share it with you. So we were talking about that around the campfire about, how do we do the location independent work and how people are doing work from home? And the conversation came up that one of the biggest things to be concerned about, or at least have access to, is internet. And it's funny how you start talking about internet and how people gain access to it. And some of the folks that I was talking to, they actually come from rural communities, and the rural communities are really, how would you say it, dependent on alternative methods to getting their internet. That could be over satellite. That could be point-to-point or RF. But most of them are using mobile devices or mobile hotspots. And I was surprised to know that somebody was actually getting 150 megabit down on their LTE service. And so that may be a lot of techie speak to you, but the one thing I'm really concerned about, because I do live video sessions, I do teaching by video, would I have enough bandwidth to deliver that kind of a service? So that was something that was really on my mind. And I was glad to hear that that service does exist and you can have that sort of bandwidth available to you. So that was like, so now that I start thinking about each one of these things and I present the idea to other people and they give me advice, this thing starts to gain momentum, folks. Good. Welcome back, Chelsea. Good to see you. Good. LA. Got somebody from Los Angeles. People putting their, looks like Melody. Thank you for putting your link in the chat. Robert's in Denver. Hey, connect with each other, folks. There's some other folks here in Seattle. Good. We could create little micro communities. Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles, Nassau, Bahamas. I think I want to go there. Maybe I should think about location independence and move to Nassau. That sounds wonderful. Good. Excellent. Terry put his LinkedIn page in there as well. Appreciate that. So remote work. So I was also thinking, if I'm out of work right now, how do I find remote work? If I'm out of work right now, how would I find remote work? And I can't think of any organization right now that isn't open to, or at least onboarding people remotely. And you could certainly take a job and they may be open to you taking a job that is based on that. On the flip side, it's an opportunity for you to open the door of discussion if you are employed with your employer or with your boss to see if you can't come up with some sort of agreement on remote work options or flex options for that sort of thing. However, many of you are looking for work and finding those opportunities could be a challenge. So I was coming with some thoughts today on how would I identify remote work opportunities. And certainly I would say the number one resource would be your network. I would look at the people you know in your network and use that as kind of a project, a purpose for connecting with them, making sure they're okay, having a conversation, recognizing that perhaps they work for a company called Apple based in Cupertino, California, but they're in Billings, Montana. Interesting. How would somebody working in a remote role of some kind, maybe in marketing, live in Billings, Montana? How is that possible? That would be a great question to ask that person, wouldn't it? So look to your network, look through your network and say, okay, I'd really love to work for a company like Apple. Oh, but they'd never hire anybody like me. And if they did, they'd force me to relocate to Cupertino or somewhere else. Maybe that's Austin, Texas, what have you. So I just really think that everybody is open to it. Now, certainly there are professions like manufacturing or assembly or a delivery services, right? Those are location dependent. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about location independent. Yeah, good to see you, Joe. And certainly Joe being in sales, because I know that about you, and Ted being maybe in marketing, sales, business development, that sort of thing. Those are probably the professions that have the least need right now for location dependence. A lot of business can be done on the internet, over the phone, email, contract signings done by DocuSign, right? We did a lot of that. It's surprising to me that one of the last industries that I was in was real estate. It was one of the last ones to adopt any kind of digital signatures, but they eventually did it. So there's that. So finding the remote work, I'd first start with my network. Find people that have done it. I had a friend that at the camping trip that he stayed employed with his company. He worked out an agreement because it was a global company to travel South America. And he traveled South America in the major cities mostly where this company had offices. He didn't have any concern about internet. If he needed internet, he could go to the company office. And they traveled South America, I believe, for a year that way, and then came back. I thought that was a great idea. How creative is that? How can you make yourself so valuable that your company would allow you to do something like that? So maybe that's a goal for you. Maybe the goal for you is, hey, I just want to make myself so valuable that it doesn't matter where I work from. That should be somebody's development strategy, your 5-year plan, my 5-year plan. So now you have an answer for that interview question. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? I look to make myself so valuable to you and your organization that I could work from anywhere, right? Anyway, that I could write my own ticket, my golden ticket, if you will. And, I think Terry and I had talked about this a number of times is from an HR perspective, talent acquisition. They're becoming likely a little more loose in allowing people to work from wherever and providing them home office stipends. There's several people I talked to this last week about their work from home. And they said, yep, my company gave me like $500 to $1,000, something like that, a stipend, a budget to, build out my office at home. And so they did that. So I know companies are thinking about it, and if they're not, they should be. And if they want the quality talent, this is maybe something that they consider. Now, again, we're focused mostly on location independent opportunities, not ones that are dependent on location. So I need a remote job. Hey, you know what? Everybody has a remote job right now. Most every job that you're looking at is a remote job. Companies are completely hiring remote. They're interviewing remote. They're making offers remote. They're onboarding people remote. They're mailing your computer assets to your house. They are not having you come to an office in most cases. So to think that there's no remote work opportunities, I would flip that around and I would say every opportunity is remote as long as it's location independent. Meaning, if I'm not driving a vehicle for FedEx and delivering packages in my zip code, right? That's a location dependent work. If you're in sales, that's, for a lot of people, if you're selling a service or you're even selling a software, that sort of thing, as a salesperson, you may not ever have to have a need to be in an office. You might have a need to be in a customer location, but you won't have a need to be in an office. That is for sure. So just assume today, subject to change, right? As the pandemic washes out and people get a little more comfortable going back to work, my suspicion, second quarter, maybe even a year from now, right? So it could be sometime second quarter 2021 or 1 year from now before people feel 100% comfortable going back to work. That's probably the, how would you say it? The contrail, the wake of the boat in terms of the pandemic. So that means that for the time being, every single opportunity that you see is a remote opportunity. And if companies aren't considering that as an option, they'll be losing out on quality talent. That's why I'm really, take it for what it's worth, but a lot of the folks that I'm talking to and working with that have landed at Amazon AWS are really excited because guess what? They're hiring a lot of people, even during the pandemic. Okay. And they're really agile about it. They didn't miss a beat. They may have slowed down a little bit, but they have the systems in place to do that. But good. I got some questions here. I'll get to those in just a second. I also believe that we need to be looking at more creative ways of earning income, because if you're in a position where you have a job, that's great. I think you should add something to that, maybe some freelance work associated with what you're doing, maybe considering to get the experience for a domain you may not be interested in, bartering. Maybe you barter, like for example, I could potentially barter career coaching services for somebody's kids coming out of college, and they could barter with me, I don't know, replacing the roof on my house. So there's ways that we can make this happen that are going to generate opportunity, income, and learnings and skills for you. So we really need to look at a lot of creative options to what we're talking about. And that might be for you some sort of portfolio career. So I consider what I have now a portfolio, right? I have work that I do for a company. I have my own freelance business. And, maybe I do some other things on the side, like creating courses or offering consulting. There's just a lot of different things that we can do to put together the type of income and lifestyle that we want. And good. So it looks like here there's a question. Any advice on job search for recent graduates? Yes, you have the number one best excuse ever to network. And one of the things that they may or may not teach you in college, I know they didn't when I was there, is sales. Sales is the art of asking questions to lead to a desired endpoint for both parties. That's, of course, my definition of sales. They may teach you marketing. They may teach you business, finance, accounting. Very few universities that I've seen teach sales or networking, right? They encourage you to network. You may even go to your career center at the university, or the alumni center at the university typically has a careers function, but very few of those places actually teach you how to network effectively. They may give you some ideas on, oh, this is what networking is, and here's how you approach it. Just go talk to your friends. Well, what do I say to my friends? I'm just out of college. I don't have any experience, perhaps. I'm new to the marketplace. I'm looking at anything. In fact, there's a lot of people in the marketplace right now. So that's clear. There's a lot of people in the marketplace. However, how many of them are networking, or how many of them are just sitting back putting in applications? So the way you differentiate yourself as a new college grad is to learn the art of networking. Now, if you want to have information about how to do it well, there are several resources on my website. You can go to andrewbeach.com. There's right there on the homepage the capacity for you to download a networking checklist. I've also got a podcast. Has anybody listened to my podcast? There's lots of information in there about best practices around networking. So you can go to jobseekersradio.com and check out my podcast. I do it with Scott Purcard-Jones. We're probably going to tee up some more episodes here as we move forward into the fall. And so subscribe, check it out. So that's my main advice for new college grads. Is the job seeking advice any different for those that are working or those that are out of work or reduction in force because of a pandemic? No, it's the same advice. So that's the interesting thing, is somehow, people think that the process is different if you're a new college grad, or if you're a little gray in the hair, if you've got any left. I mean, mine's constantly moving back, but I think you know what I mean, is that the process is still the same. The fact remains that people hire those they know, like, and trust. That's always been true. You buy things from people you know, like, and trust. You take advice from people you know, like, and trust. Okay? So if I was looking for a babysitter today, if I had small kids and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go crazy, where can I find a COVID responsible babysitter or nanny? Maybe I start with the internet. No, I don't start with the internet. I start with people I know, people I like, and people I trust. Now, so here's the other thing. I've got a great article, and it's been a while since I've shared this article. I shared it with one other person just this afternoon who was prepping for an interview. Oh, that didn't come across the way I wanted it to. That's bizarre. Paste as plain text. There it goes. All right, I'll put it in the chat for you. It'll be in there. There we go. Good. So it's over on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Periscope. But it's a link to an article that I find really fascinating. It was done by University of Kentucky, and it deals with how do you create a friend. And really what it's saying is, how do you build enough trust to become a friend? And it's talking about hours of investment, okay? Hours of investment. So when you start thinking about all of the people you know, like, and trust, you probably have invested time. You've established credibility. You perhaps have also done something for them where there was no expectation of return. Maybe you share things. It's a give and take relationship. There's a lot of components to trust, okay? But that's one that I thought was really interesting. And therefore, if I'm a new college person, I don't have a network, and I'm reaching out to somebody for the first time, that's not the last time. That's just the beginning of a professional relationship with that person. That's where you have an opportunity to say, follow up with them after a period of time and let them know what's going on in your job search. If they introduced you to somebody, get back with them and say, hey, thanks for introducing me to that person. Okay. So it's just, so look at that study. I thought it was really interesting. In fact, if you want to come on live, I will put the link to come on live again in the chat, and you can join me live and get your career coaching questions answered, whether you're a new college grad or not. Come on live, and I'd be happy to offer any kind of support that you need. So that's, I mean, the main topic I was really thinking about that's kind of top of mind for me is this idea of location independent work, and how can we as professionals find companies that are amenable to this. And again, I'm going to encourage you, go to your network first. Go to the people you know, like, and trust. Ask them for information, advice, connection to other people that do remote work, okay? Now, I know everybody's doing remote work, but you want to identify those companies. So I think there was another question here. Let's see what it says. Companies will find the remote option to be a positive, permanent direction for employees. It's possible. I mean, so here's the question I have for many of you. Have all of your jobs been permanent? Have all of your jobs been permanent? So I don't think we can depend, for example, on something like AT&T, Ma Bell back in the day, offering us lifetime employment with a pension and everything else. That's becoming less and less possible, mostly in the trades. I mean, the trades, you can likely do that, right? So I could go in and, like my brother is a lineman. He's probably in Connecticut trying to restore power right now. So I'm hoping that he's safe and praying for his safety right now, because he's trying to restore power to a lot of people. Well, the odds are that he's likely to be employed, work his entire career in the utility industry as a lineman, and retire, likely with a pension. But that's less common. I don't think that's a permanent positive option, personally. I think there's a lot of value to connection with people, and you're probably even feeling that now, even though we're here and we're a community, right? And we can kind of see each other, right? What we don't see or get is that tangible connection that it's almost electric. And I don't know how to explain it, but there's something different being together in person. And you get to see people and feel people and their spirit. I don't know how else to explain it. But I would consider this a great opportunity to find, so Robert, you mentioned VMware. Well, yeah, VMware is a global company. They hire a lot of people. And if I want to work for VMware, I'm going to look in my network and see who's working at VMware that's in some obscure place like, I don't know, Dubuque, Iowa. Not that that's obscure, but let's just assume for a moment that VMware is not based in Dubuque, Iowa. Then it's likely that person, and if they're in your domain of expertise, you'd have a good conversation, wouldn't you? How did you get there? What was your career path? Come with curiosity, questions, asking for information, advice, connection to other people. Uh, oh, so you want me to expand on starting a freelance thing? Well, I mean, so for me, let's just take my case, for example. Okay, so I went into um, career coaching with a company that provides career coaching services. Okay. So I shifted. And so at the time, I was selling real estate. So I was doing career coaching, I was doing real estate. Eventually, I transitioned all the way over to career coaching. It was a full time job for a couple of years. And so, but that got my feet wet, gave me credibility. Not that I didn't have credibility, I didn't have any documented work experience, even though I had been career coaching for 10 years pro bono as a real estate agent. So what does that mean? Well, I look at it as a logical extension of what I was already doing. I was a career coach. I was pro bono 10 years. I sold real estate. I transitioned to career coaching full time. And then I established a side hustle doing what? Career coaching. Okay. And so that's what I'm doing now. That's why I'm here, is to demonstrate to you my expertise, to give back to the community. And it's a goes around, comes around. I talked to that a lot. Once we completed that networking book, in fact, I don't have it right here, but it's the it's on the YouTube channel. If you go to the YouTube channel, I've created a playlist. So just search Andrew Beach, YouTube, and you'll probably find my channel there. And it's got the not the anatomy, the networking book. We read through that together this last year, and there's a lot of great information in that book. But what I did was a natural extension of what I was already doing. So think about that from your perspective. What is a natural extension of what you're already doing? Or perhaps you have a passion project that you're using as a hobby or just a distraction, which is valuable, right? It's valuable to have things on the side that you're working on. But I would look at that, and I always wondered or doubted for a long time, could I ever make money in career coaching or doing this full time? I doubted that was possible. I mean, people are out of work. They don't have any money, right? So there's a lot of this disbelief in our minds about what is available, valid, and what would people be willing to pay for. Often things that come easy to me don't come easy to others. And that's a realization I've had to make over the years, that, I need to slow down and teach people, because I'm coming from a different level of competency. And so what is it that you're exceptional at that you could help other people also become exceptional at through consulting, coaching, teaching, digital projects, digital products, whatever that looks like. There's a lot of directions where you can go. So, but it's then looking, okay, if that's something I'm good at and I enjoy doing it, where can I find a marketplace to help me with that? So one of the things that I've leaned into is the LinkedIn ProFinder system. You can see articles on my profile about that, but the LinkedIn ProFinder system is where you would find professionals to help you with things. And it's not a paid service. They require you to have premium service, I think, but it's in order to respond to the request. So there is some layer of payment there. I mean, I've already got premium service, so that was no big deal for me. So I took advantage of it, and I've gotten some business out of that, and that certainly has supplemented my income from the company I work for, plus all the things I do in my referral business, etc. So there's other ways to be creative about putting together a portfolio. Good. Seeing a lot of, Terry's seeing a lot of companies heading that direction. Good. Yeah, I mean, I agree, Terry. There's a lot of people that are reluctant to do something until it's forced upon them. And I think that's what's happening now, is that companies are reluctant to do something because they're worried or concerned about compliance or somebody not doing their work. But, if you set up KPIs and expectations and regular checkpoints, I don't see why this isn't a possibility. What I see developing is flexible, right? So people just want companies to be flexible. They don't want companies to be rigid to the point where there's no flexibility if I need to care for an ailing spouse or parents, or if I have a baby, or if I need to relocate to be closer to family, that I can still do the work remotely and not be not have my career damaged or hamstrung because of it. So I think there's really an opportunity here for companies to evolve their philosophy and be a little more flexible, right? So flexibility, I think, is something that we need to understand as an organization, right? From an organizational perspective. On the other hand, the employee needs to be agile, right? We need to be agile and available. So if you're agile and you're available, it doesn't really much matter where you work. Good. Yeah. I mean, I've got kids too, man. Yeah, I can relate. I mean, I've got kids at home, and I don't know how we're going to do the homeschooling thing, if we're going to do that through the school district or on our own or what have you, but that's where we're at. I'm not convinced that a school that's in a traditional learning model can shift gears immediately and become a remote learning institution and be good at it. I just don't think that's possible. So yes, I can relate to that. And that's something that a lot of companies are probably having to deal with. I mean, they're going to have to think about, how do I create an environment where I can get people to perform and they stick around, and that we're flexible in providing them ways to execute their work so they can also do homeschooling. So yes, I appreciate that, Chelsea. And I wish you would all look at who's in the chat, click on their profile and connect with them, please. I want this to be a community, and I think you do too. Otherwise, what's the point? Why are we even here? So keep that going. Keep that thread going. Thank you, Robert, for posting your let's see here. Oh, wow. That's a big, long chat. Robert, I don't think I can fit all that chat into the window here. Remote work genie is out of the bottle. While this transition isn't without challenges, these IT leaders still find a new silver linings when looking forward to their organizational future. Tom's okay. Wow. 50%. Our internal team chat tool exploded. Yeah. I mean, there's lots of, I don't know that I'd be optimistic about this, because there's something lost. There's definitely something lost by having 100% remote workforce. There's absolutely something lost. I'm working in an organization that's almost 100% remote workforce. Okay. That was even before the pandemic. And you just don't get the quality of conversation. You don't get connection. You don't get as good a team interaction as you do when you're together. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be together 24/7. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm suggesting is if there was a remote work situation for an organization, I think they should have regular face meetings once a quarter, maybe twice a year, where everybody on the team gets together and they work through things. But a lot of companies are like, oh, that's going to be too expensive. Well, what is it costing you now in terms of attrition and turnover? I mean, that's an easy thing to get an ROI on. So good. Old school need for line of sight. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's an old school. The old school need isn't for line of sight. It's for leaders that are managers, or leaders that feel like they aren't a leader unless they are managing, monitoring, controlling. All right. So there's that's the old model of leadership, which would be, in my case, management. I would call that management. So not that they need to be line of sight. It's that they feel better. They're more confident that they're actually doing their job if they can see people. I don't think it has anything to do with productivity, and I certainly don't think it has anything to do with the capacity of the worker to be responsible. Yeah, well, Joe, that goes without saying. I mean, I think so. One book I would actually recommend for all of you to take a look at, not because I'm partial or anything, but it is Everybody Matters, and I think it's by Bob Chapman. I'll put that in the chat. I think it's Everybody Matters by Bob Chapman. And you can find Bob Chapman here on LinkedIn as well. He posts a lot of good information. So I'll put that, let me put it in this other chat. Chapman. I would encourage you to read that. So the reason I bring that up, because in that book, let me put it, I'll put my own comment up on the screen. But in that book, what he talks about, instead of, so what happened was 2008, right? The last recession we had, the Great Recession, he had a choice to make. He could either lay a whole bunch of people off and close sites, or he could do something different. And we're seeing that now as a lot of companies are actually considering furloughs and reduction in benefits, maybe even reduction in salaries. So there was an example there where he talked about the Great Recession. They didn't lay anybody off. I think they offered some early retirements. They furloughed, they did a rolling furlough, and you had so many furlough days and you could barter with other people for furlough days. You could take vacations, right? And they made it through that particular recession without laying anybody off. And they what did they call it? They froze and did away with contributions to 401k. And they made a promise if they got through that and were cash flow positive, profitable again, they would pay that back. And they did. So yeah, you're right. Fear is and control are powerful motivators for people to leave an organization. So that's, yeah, so I agree. I agree with your statement there, Ted, is that, yes, that's absolutely, I would say a red flag. So this is where you could actually ask questions at an interview. Many people think, oh, I'm just supposed to have all the answers. Well, no, you're supposed to have some of the questions because they don't always have all the answers. So, and they may think that your answers are valid, but you need to get their perspectives as well. Let's see. So question from Zai. Zai, good to have you. You guys should all connect with Zai. So with corporations moving work from home up to January, February 2021, I think it's going to go longer than that. That's just my feel. What do you think about administrative assistant? Are they moving to virtual assistant widely? Yes, they are. Everybody's working from home. So consider every single opportunity posted anywhere as a remote work opportunity. All of them, 100%. Any role that could be location independent is a remote work opportunity. And I think you should take advantage of that. Good. Let's see here. Question from Nick. Any way to prepare for a behavioral interview which involves me taking a personality profile test? No. Those profile tests, it just depends on which ones they are. I think Terry might be a better resource for that than me, but I don't know that there's any way to prepare for those. Unless you have a PhD in psychology and understand what those tests are measuring and what might be asked of you based on that, I don't know. So some companies are in the position where they can offer those personality tests, assessments, if you want to call them, so that they can make sure that people can work together. Because you don't want you don't want a group of people that have the exact same personality. That just creates conflict. Not that conflict isn't valid or valuable. It's just you don't want it all the time, 100%, because everybody thinks it, or you get confirmation, right? So that makes the organization vulnerable. So there's a lot of reasons behind that. So Terry, if you want to chime in on that, I mean, I'm happy to bring you on as a guest host. You could talk through that. But good. Any other questions out there? Yeah, Everybody Matters by Bob Chapman. I think everybody should read that book. In fact, I recommended this book to a friend 2 or 3 years ago. He's a business owner, and he actually did this. He didn't lay off any of his people. And I'm not sure I think he took the PPP money, but I'm not sure he spent any of it. So he kept it in a reserve and didn't spend it. Let's see. I have a friend who is an owner of a law firm in Portland. The question of admin assistance, he has developed a brisk system for managing and working with his admin. Yeah, I mean, you have to establish some ground rules. I think that's true of any organization, whether you're working remotely or in person. You ought to have a standard of a standard to work on, operating rules, norms, understanding. That's just generally, yes. Okay. Thank you, Zai. Everybody connect with Zai. Send her a connection request. Let her know you were on Career Happy Hour with Andrew and you would like to connect. Okay. I encourage everybody in the chat, connect with each other, have conversations. And before you go, Zai, just click that little share button down below and share it with your network. Something great you got out of this session today. Maybe you got some nugget of information, or maybe not. Who knows? But good. Let's see. Is pursuing a PhD going to hurt your chances of getting positions? Well, that depends. If you're 100% engaged in your PhD and you're not building a network or establishing value to your organization at the same time, it just really comes down to how much are you attached to sleep, right? So if I'm getting a PhD and I'm working and I'm trying to get new positions, I mean, I'm not familiar with your particular situation, but I think it has a lot more to do with you not investing 100% of your effort in the PhD, but maybe 80% into that and 20% into building your network. Okay. Chelsea has a tactical question. Thank you, Chelsea, for the question. I interviewed for a job that was 30 to 45K less. And I think you advised before saying not to start over because it's hard to get back to where you were, correct? No, I think everybody has a decision to make on what they're willing to or not accept in terms of compensation. That's a decision you get to make. However, I would look at that as an opportunity. What is the opportunity in that situation? One, I've established value with a hiring team. I've met new people. I've understood a new organization. And although the compensation is below my needs, I really appreciate the opportunity to interview there. I'm grateful for that. And I would certainly like to learn about other opportunities that would help me grow in the organization. Is there an assurance that within 6 months you would have a review on the compensation? What is the career path for somebody who starts at that level, 30K lower? So, I mean, you have to decide, and I don't know your financial runway. So if you have a financial runway and it's an organization you believe in and they're offering you something that is good for now, I would consider it for sure. Easy to take anything these days when you have no income right now. Yeah, I mean, if your financial runway is 30 days and you're living on unemployment, then yeah. So I'm not going to presume what your circumstance is. But what happens is, and what this sometimes is an indicator of is, here's what I think job search is. Job search is me applying online, crossing my fingers, hoping I get an interview. And then when I do, I get to take what the market gives me. Okay, that's one form of job search. The other is, hey, here's my skill sets. Here's my brand. Here's what I'm really good at. Let's activate the network and see where the opportunities lie, where I don't have to take a 30 to 45K hit on the income. So what I advise is the latter, is how do I build a trusted network where when I come to this crossroads again, I'm not in a position that I am today that put me in a compromising choice of 0 and 1, right? Either a bank account that says 0 or something that is just $1 higher than that. So good. Teresa's got a question here. Thank you, Teresa, for joining. Go ahead and click the share button. Let people know what you learned today. If you have a degree, but you went back and took refresher classes like accounting, payroll, etc., how would you put that information on your resume, or do you leave it off? Well, if it's relevant to your future, the resume is all about relevancy. If it's relevant to your future, then yes, you would put it on there as, say, professional development. It wouldn't go under education per se because you didn't really get a degree, but it is professional development. So there may be something new you learned about payroll compliance. So put that in there. Yeah, so I would put it on my resume if I'm seeking roles in accounting, payroll, finance, etc., and that sort of thing. Absolutely. Good. Yeah, I mean, so I think that's a valid point, Teresa, not just for people who are looking to get educated or get interviews. It could be any domain, not just accounting or payroll, I've seen people go back and get a certification in AWS or Azure or project management, right? There's a lot of different ways to get some education without paying a lot of money. LinkedIn learnings and so forth, those are valuable to demonstrate to people, hey, even right before the interview, I've seen this happen where somebody went in, they were able to secure an interview, and then they went and got some training before the interview to demonstrate, hey, I'm invested, I'm interested, I did all this work, I've got the certificates, here they are, right? And so it doesn't have to be on your resume or even your LinkedIn profile to get the interview. It could be something you've already got an interview and you use that to prep. So good. Excellent, Teresa, taking accounting statistics and German. Interesting. So I just had a client of mine that I helped last year get a job in Germany. And she's never worked in Germany before. Doesn't even speak German. So anyway, she's working for a company in Germany and loving it, having a lot of opportunities to grow. Awesome. Yeah. So continue sharpening the saw. That's one of Covey's 7 habits. Interestingly enough, it's the 7th habit. So it's not the first habit. First habit is be proactive. That's where the networking comes in. So that if you haven't done it yet, I would go back and look at Covey's 7 habits. Covey's 7 habits of highly effective people. Effective people. And that is a book, but it's also a philosophy. And I think you can also get, I think I have the audiobook. Okay. So I'll put that in the chat here on LinkedIn as well. Good. Any other questions out there that I can help with? So yeah, it's Covey's 7 habits of highly effective people. So yes, take a look at that. The other one was, what was the other one? Everybody Matters, I think, by Bob Chapman. Good. Well, I don't see anybody coming in. Does somebody want to come in and get some advice, some information, some coaching? I'll put the link here into LinkedIn again. You just need to make sure you turn off your LinkedIn audio so that it doesn't create an echo here on Restream. Live coaching available. It's free. Okay. It's free. Hands-on coaching live. Free. I like free. Free is a really good price. So now that I moved home to Nassau, yes, that's got to be terrible, Joel. But due to lack of engineering opportunities here, I'm still networking in US and Canada. Is it smart to have my location in LinkedIn is New York, or can I easily move there if need? Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't, that's a great question. So what I would do is make sure that I have a physical address somewhere that I can use. And I would establish a residency. So if it was in some fashion, I recognize you might need a visa. I don't know what your citizenship status is, so I won't speak to that. But I have seen people use a friend or a family member's address, and they would use that on their LinkedIn, on their resume. They wouldn't use the address, just a city, state. But you need to be prepared to travel there if that's the case. So when you go to make travel arrangements for an interview in the United States, wherever that is, or Canada, they need to make sure that they do that from Nassau, Bahamas, not New York. So be honest about your status and where you're located. Okay. You may be even on your LinkedIn profile, just put that in the summary section, right? Currently residing in Nassau, Bahamas, with family. Maybe you're taking care of family. Maybe there's a reason you're in the Bahamas, but that's certainly something that can be up for discussion once you get to the phone screen. Let's see, what's the company in Germany? I don't know what the company is in Germany. I'd have to go back and look at her profile. Yeah, I see your question. Want to talk about personality tests? No, I think that it was a question that Nick had. So if you want to connect with Nick, you can have a conversation with him directly, because that's it's kind of above my pay grade. But if you have other questions, I just love to hear your update, Terry. let me know where you're at. Maybe we could do that next Wednesday, but whatever works for you, whatever floats your boat. I'm here for you guys, not for me. So if you want to come on, you can do that. Let me go see if I can find the profile. By the way, while we're sitting here and I'm looking around for this profile, go ahead and share this with your network. Click the share button on whatever platform you might be on, and then we can. I wonder why it's not showing here. I know I had a. No. I do have a pending recommendation. Yeah, my profile isn't loading. I'll see if I can find that and then send it over to you, Chelsea. Chelsea Janes. Let me get to your profile here. There you are. Thank you, Chelsea. Appreciate that. Yeah, good. Yeah, you're welcome, Joel. Appreciate that. So, Terry, you didn't want to come on, or you did? Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. I have to get my headphones. Maybe get my headphones here. And a drink of water. Yeah, if you're just joining us, this is Career Happy Hour. I come here every Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time for about an hour, maybe a little bit more if you need to. And yeah, thanks. Good. And so any questions you have, you can put in the chat. I'm here to answer. There's also in the chat a link to come on live if you want some live coaching. I'm happy to do that. So we can share your experience with the world. And I really like people that connect with each other in the chat. Click on people's profiles and send them connection requests so we can get this moving forward. Terry, it's your world. I'm just here. I'm just here to support. So if you want to come on, you can do that. That's fine. And maybe we can have a conversation about the, let's see here. Yeah, I mean, if you want to come on, Terry, by all means, click the little link. Click that little linky link down below. Or do you need the link again? I guess I can put it in there again. Copy. That's weird. Did this show up twice to you guys? That's bizarre. I don't know what's happening here. There it is. One more time. Huh, interesting. Okay. Let me see here. Terry's not coming in. Terry's coming in. Maybe, maybe not. If you're on LinkedIn, there's the link to come in live. Yes. Zai, do you want to come in live? Go ahead and click the link. Happy to support your success in any way possible. So I'm really, I had an issue with Restream today. I had to reconnect the account. At the same time, my dog was having a little fun in the backyard, and that was problematic. It was not good. So I might need to go here pretty soon. So if you have no further questions, I will see you next week. Oh, wait, is Terry coming in? Right as I'm getting ready to go. How about that? Terry, are you there?
Yes.
There we go. How's that? You're frozen, though. Should I freeze? Why? You're no movement. It's not on my side. I can see me just fine.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. You're on the air, live. It's Career Happy Hour, Career Cocktail Hour. Is everybody seeing Terry? Let me know in the chat if you see Terry and can hear Terry, and if Terry's coming in live for you.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. So Terry, you have experience with assessments. as part of the hiring process. Tell me how you've used those in the past. Terry? No, Terry? Are you there?
Yes, right on. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Did you fix your problem?
I'm getting 2 feeds here.
Okay. Well, you need to close. So the problem is when you click on that from you're going to have to click the other tab and close the LinkedIn so that
Oh,
it
got it.
doesn't create an echo, which is problematic. That's one of the things you have to recognize when we're talking about technology.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you
Good.
hear me
So
now?
now that I can.
Can you see me now?
I can.
Well, I think we're good.
All right. So tell me, Terry, about assessments and how you've used them in the hiring process. Just
Right.
real quick.
Real quick. So I've used them. I've taken them. I've actually designed a few over the years. And to answer the basic question, I mean, if you've spent enough time with them, you can definitely start to psych them out. And it's just a matter of, do you want to or not? I mean, the question is, do you want to present who you are as, you, or do you, want to try and figure out how to sort of second guess the thing? I mean, unfortunately, again, well, I don't know, unfortunately or not, I've had enough experience with them over the years that there are definitely ways that you can psych out a personality test. And it's really a matter of understanding the framing of the questioning and the pattern of the questioning and how they use double back questions. But I don't recommend trying to do that just because, look, at the end of the day, you don't want people to hire somebody that you're not. You want people to hire who you are. So my strongest recommendation for personality tests is just be honest, right? Just be yourself, answer it as you are now. Because one of the things that's interesting about these kind of tests, so, and I'm thinking particularly of the Strengths Finder as a good example of this, is that when you take it, you are in a particular frame of mind, because of your personal situation, your business situation, a wide variety of factors. And you can take something like a Strengths Finder or a PI or what have you, and you can show up differently depending on the circumstances at the time at which you take the test, right? And so that's the risk that that entire industry runs, is that, and everybody will say, no, we've figured that out. We've factored out how to, control for that. They haven't. That's the bottom line, is they haven't. So depending on, again, the environment you're in, the situation you're in, and I've seen this replicated numerous times, you can show up. I mean, you're going to be similar. Your baselines are going to be pretty similar. But depending on circumstances, there are elements that will be different. And so it's the way I've heard it best described. And I had some consultants that I worked with from Drake B. Morin back in the day who would support this concept, is that it really is about your core values, right? And about, who you are as an individual. And you can intellectualize the thing 9 ways from Sunday, but at the end of the day, what you want to be is true to yourself and who you are, right? And
but Terry, that's the assessment, right? So I'm assuming that that's used to inform the hiring process in some way.
Right.
Does that then lead to a panel of questions that are different based on the results of the assessment? And how is that used, and how can we as candidates prepare for those questions?
Right. So typically what happens is, and this is the other important point, is that when it's being used appropriately, it's being used as one element of the assessment process. It's not the cornerstone of the process. It's just another bit of information, right? So what you can reasonably expect is, number one, that you will receive, when you've done the test, particularly if it's an automated testing system, you'll automatically receive a report that says, here's what we deduced, right? And so it's valuable, particularly if you're moving forward in the interview process, it's valuable to say, okay, I'm going to read the report carefully, because people I don't know are going to make assumptions based on this report. and I need to just be prepared for that. And so some groups will base questions on the report. And again, I went through this exercise with Drake Beam, and we had, several hours worth of detailed activity around this because of the fact that, we all kind of came from the same perspective, from kind of an organizational development, industrial psychology point of view. And so we really got under the hood on every question. It was very interesting. But most organizations that I've seen and been around and done this with will tell you that, that's an adjunct to everything else. That we probably will use the personality inventory or the assessment or whatever you call it as a piece of the final, decision-making process, but it won't necessarily enter into the interview process itself. It shouldn't really, because it's very subjective, and again, it's very time-based. So
you have to assume that they're giving it to you for a reason, and that that it is part of the hiring process.
It's part of it.
But much like the applicant tracking systems, there's varying degrees of sophistication and understanding of these assessments based on the person interpreting them. Is that what we're hearing? Okay.
Correct. Yes, that's a really good point.
Right. So the advice you would have for a candidate then is prepare for the interview like you would any other, and just assume that that was good if they continue with the process.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, unless you show up diametrically opposite from everything, the personality assessment will not be used as a kick-out mechanism. That's dangerous. So what it will be used for is to augment the understanding of the process in its final form, right? So to answer your question, yeah, prepare as you would any other situation. Understand that, the information is being, is in its place, and you hope it's in an appropriate place of being an adjunct and not a focal point, and, continue on.
Good. Well, there's another question here. It came in from the peanut gallery from Chelsea. Many job fairs online are for lower pay random companies. Most job fairs are set up that way, just in general. How can we get into online job fairs that are for proper known companies with proper living pay? Well, we have to understand why job fairs exist in the first place, pandemic or no pandemic. My perception, and this is just one man's perception, is that it's a PR process, right? It's for the company to have a PR presence in the marketplace, which is valid, and I agree with it. It's also to serve as a screening process for potential candidates for likely open requisitions.
Yeah.
So you can also know those open requisitions online. What is the value of a career fair? Well, it's an opportunity for you as a candidate to network. And I know I harp on this a lot, but there's a lot of people and a lot of hiring folks in a job fair, and you may not get to first base, but you might get a name and a phone number, and you can follow up. So the value of job fair, in my mind, is to create new relationships. Terry, any advice there? I'm sure you've done career fairs or suggested your organizations participate in them. So from the company perspective, what do you have to offer?
From the company perspective, I tend to agree with Chelsea's assessment to a certain point. It's, they're primarily an opportunity to really leverage a lot of people in a very short period of time, right? You've got a day, you've got a half a day, you're going to get a lot of folks coming through the door, either virtually or in real time. But that's it. You're right. It's a marketing thing. It's a networking opportunity. It's an opportunity to, the first one I went to, thousands of resumes, thousands. This was in the early 80s.
What do you do with those?
Well, you try to process them. I know that sounds silly, but what we try to do is you try to bucket them into places where you have needs, and places where you know that you may have needs, and places where you know you're never going to have needs, right?
Mm.
And and you react to them based on that,
Right.
and realistically, the online job fair or career fair is no different than the face-to-face career fair in that way. It's about
more people.
Yeah, probably.
In my experience, there's way more people because it's location independent, right?
Right.
You're not forcing people, companies, or candidates to meet in one place.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of value in them for meeting people.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to read between the lines on the question, though, and that is, hey, I think that job search is job fairs, right? And job search isn't job fairs.
No.
Job search, the number one way to find work today is networking.
Yep.
And often we look at these various different ways because our online applications aren't landing the right opportunities for us.
Yeah.
Well, so we need to do a checkup from the neck up, as they say, right? Is what I'm doing generating the results that I need? And if I know networking is number one, how much time am I investing in that activity and refining, honing that skill? Because It is a skill and it can be learned.
True. It's true.
I'll just read between the lines on that one, Chelsea. So if you want more support on that, I've definitely got the podcast. I've got the Anatomy of a Networking Conversation on the jobseekersradio.com website. I've got the networking checklist. There's lots of resources available. Not to mention, there's a whole list of people here in the chat that'd probably be willing to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
So leverage that. Start having conversations with people who have yep, it's still there. I still got a pulse. Right? Because the ATS is not your friend, and it's not a person. It's a database. It's a system. For better or worse, for richer or poor, till death do you part. No, that's not it. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I have some thoughts on that as well. So Chelsea, happy to help you with that. If you're interested, I'd love to set some time to talk about, career fairs and ATSs and all things in between.
Yes, absolutely. And when all else fails, start your own business. Right? I think she's an executive administrator. So, I mean, she could pick up. So I look at it this way. It's like, hey, if I used to make, let's say, 100K, and I could pick up 5 clients each willing to work me, part-time, 35K a year, I'm ahead, right?
Yeah.
So the math works out better if I do it on my own. Anyway, let's see. Job fairs are not job finds, never have been. Yeah, they are great places to network.
Yeah.
I still believe that true. And even if they're needing roofers or drivers, Chelsea, I'm seeing that on the screen now. The roofer I know, he knows a lot of people. Why? Because he's been on a lot of roofs. So if you don't think that a roofer can introduce you to somebody that's a hiring manager at one of your target companies, you would be mistaken. I can guarantee you they're one step closer to that person than you are because they stood on their roof and replaced it. So
a really safe assumption.
Yeah, I mean, we can't really exclude anybody because we don't know who their circle of influence is.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we don't do the networking because we don't feel that person would be of value to us directly. Not recognizing it's second, third, fourth degree from that person that generates results. So I don't have much else to add today. Any parting thoughts, Terry? Anything you'd like to share with the populace?
No, just, hang in. Resilience is key right now. I mean, this is the Dickensian worst of times. And, but by the same token, let's not lose sight of the first part of that sentence. There's from adversity springs opportunity, right? I mean, Andrew, great comment about the administrative angle of it. I know people that do that, that work for 2 or 3 different organizations as administrative people, and they, combine that to make more than they would have in one. So, yeah, creativity and resilience.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Oh, it looks like I was misspoken there. She's in IT marketing program management. So, good. I mean, if I was in IT program management, I would be talking to people that are peers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who are so if I look at, I don't know what geography you're in, Chelsea, you might be in Portland, but I would try to talk with, I don't know, 10 program managers a day. Could you do that? Could you have 10 conversations a day with a program manager in Portland, Seattle, somewhere in the West Coast, regionally speaking, just to see how they're managing the pandemic? What are the best practices in your domain? Is there any best practices you could share? Right? And make it a conversational piece. So, yes, resilience. That's the name of the game. Resilience and connecting with people. Resilience and connecting with people. Yep, it was I was thinking of. Thank you for correcting that. All right, folks. Well, thanks for joining me again for this this episode, I guess, of Career Happy Hour. I do appreciate your attendance. Share this with as many people as you can. Let them know I'm here every Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, to offer a community to help support your success. All right, folks, take care. Have a great weekend. Be well.